So the Big 12 men and the women are at the midway point of their conference season. Which teams to you look like the most likely championship contenders when you look at the rest of the season?
The men's race, okay, Texas is 7-2. Then you got 4 teams at 6-3: Iowa State, K-State, TCU, and Kansas. And then Baylor is 5-4. So anyway, I was looking at the remaining schedules, and to me, K-State definitely has the most favorable schedule remaining. You know, you gotta think most teams are going to win, most of their home games. So road games left for K-State. They're at Tech, at Oklahoma State, and at West Virginia. So that's the bottom half of the conference there. And those are games you would think they would at least split, or maybe take 3 out of 4, or even win all 4. So I think the Wildcats definitely have the best schedule, most favorable schedule remaining. You look at Kansas, they still have 5 Big 12 games left, road games left. And among those are Iowa State, TCU, and Texas. So that's 3 of the top teams. And then Texas, just looking at their schedule, they've got to, well, during the next week, they go to K-State and Kansas. So they may not be in the lead anymore after that. And they still have games at Baylor and TCU. So that's pretty tough. So I think it's probably going to be among those 3 teams. Baylor's 2 games back of Texas right now. So I don't know. I think they would have to just really get incredibly hot, win, 8 of the last 9 or something like that to win it, to do a three-peat. But yeah, I would say K-State in the men's league.
Which, we've talked about it before, but certainly would warrant Jerome Tang a lot of Coach of the Year consideration.
Exactly.
Not just Big 12 wise, but national wise. On the women's side, so right now, believe it or not, the Texas Longhorns are the sole leader of the Big 12 in the women's race. That is by virtue of a 4-game winning streak for the Longhorns, but also Iowa State got upset last night, Wednesday night, in the women's game by a point to K-State. That was a little surprising, but it also speaks to something we've talked a lot about, this season, and I think that's the parity within the Big 12 conference, both on the women's side and on the men's side. I think they tend to beat up on each other. As far as who the contender is looking like, I mean, so like I said, Texas is sitting there at 8-2. Texas was a preseason top 10 team. And then, they've really been up and down since. Some of that is injury related, as we, heard from Danny Davis last week on our pod. But, they are healthier now. They still have a player they lost, way back in November. But so, the Longhorns are looking strong, but they still have to go to Iowa State and to Oklahoma. And those are the 2 teams that are right behind them, a game behind them in the Big 12 standings. To me, I kind of like the Cyclones as probably the top contender. They're the top ranked team in the Big 12 right now, at 12th in the country. The loss last night was certainly surprising to K-State. They really need Ashley Joens, who's, arguably the best all-around player in the Big 12, to be that for them on a nightly basis. But they have some other players too that have to step up. But I think Iowa State, just based on the schedule, can Baylor sneak in there? One thing I'll say about Baylor, they're going to have a consistently great to elite defensive night pretty much every night, because they're so streaky as shooters. This is a very streak shooting Baylor team. And that much isn't going to change. They're going to have cold streaks. They're going to have hot streaks. They had both last night.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
had a really bad shooting first half, and then they hit their first 7 shots of the third quarter. So that's just the way they go. They're up and they're down offensively. But if they can get really great defense and keep themselves in games, they've got a fighter's chance. I mean, an outside, maybe a puncher's chance at a Big 12 championship, which would, of course, extend that streak that they're on to 13 games. We'll see. But I would say today, Iowa State's looking like the team I would put at the top contender spot.